Week 1 officially in the books. Week 2 is here, and I think this is pretty safe to say we can call it the game of the weekend. It's a top 10 showdown in the Big House. You've got Texas at Michigan. And here to help us break down this monster matchup is Chip Brown from Horns 24/7 and Sam Webb from the Michigan Insider. But first, let's tell you a little bit more about this matchup. Just the second time ever that these two teams are meeting. The other time was pretty dramatic, if you remember. Texas taking down Michigan in the 2004 Rose Bowl, 38-37. Now, these are top 10 ranked teams, but top 5 programs in terms of all-time wins. The defending national champs are first, while the Longhorns are tied for 4th in all-time wins. So with that as the backdrop, let's start with that Rose Bowl matchup because we have some history buffs here. Sam, I'll start with you. What do you remember about that game?
Yeah, I was at that game. I remember it being, I think, the coming out party for Vince Young as the best player in college football. I remember Pat Massey being a 6'7", 290-pound defensive end, just bouncing off of Vince Young like he was a little kid. It was one of the most phenomenal performances I've ever seen, and it was like the springboard to what we saw Vince Young do over the next year. And so it was an unbelievable game that was the springboard to Texas winning the national championship the next year.
Yeah, I mean, Dusty Mangum, I mean, he will live on in Texas lore, the walk-on kicker who ends up booting the 37-yarder to win it as time expires. I remember Mac Brown saying, "Aren't you lucky, Dusty? You get to kick the game-winning field goal here at the Rose Bowl." But yeah, Vince Young, ridiculous, 4 touchdown runs. But Chad Henne to Braylon Edwards, Steve Breston breaks O.J. Simpson's total offense record in the Rose Bowl. And of course, Vince Young famously said, "We'll be back," fully knowing that the Rose Bowl is where the national championship game would be the following year. He was back and showed that he was just getting warmed up against Michigan with what he did against USC.
I'm glad we're able to reminisce because I can say with confidence that nobody playing in this game probably has any recollection of that game, so it's good that we laid it out. Let's talk about this upcoming game, though. As we've learned, Texas is not afraid of going on the road in Week 2 to a top 10 opponent. This is the second straight year that they've done that. So, Chip, how much confidence can this team take away from last year's early season non-con win in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I mean, there's 46 guys on this Texas team who were a part of that 34-24 win at Alabama. So including Quinn Ewers, obviously, that you could argue that was his best game as a Longhorn. 24 of 38 passing, 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. If he plays like that again on Saturday, I think Texas is going to be feeling really good about things. But Bama was 42-1 at home going into that game. Michigan is 41-3 in its last 44 games, won 23 straight at home, and has a 16-game winning streak. So it feels similar. So I think, Sarkisian was very aggressive against Alabama last year. We'll see if he's feeling even more aggressive with a third-year starter at quarterback in Quinn Ewers. But we're gonna find out who Sarkisian really trusts. He's talked about having 6 receivers, and they played 61 kids in the opener against Colorado State. We're gonna find out who's in that circle of trust on Saturday.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Sam, most of the conversations that you and I have had over the offseason and over the last week has been about the quarterback situation. And to the surprise of many who just penciled in Alex Orji to that starting job, Sherrone Moore opted to start Davis Warren. Now, both of these QBs played, but what did they show you last Saturday that gave us maybe some more information about what we'll see this Saturday?
Yeah, I thought that you saw some shades of what they saw from Davis Warren in camp. I mean, he throws a catch ball. His connection with Colston Loveland, every ball was on the money. I mean, Colston had a drop in there, and that wasn't on Davis. But you saw some jitters. He had some miscues in there. The interception he was late on. He had a couple of misreads in there. He went to his first read. Looked like a first-time starter in there at times. I think one of the biggest questions for Michigan moving forward, Emily, really has to do with the running game and how it affects the decision at quarterback. If you look at 21 and 22, Michigan was excellent at blocking loaded boxes with their offensive line. And then last year, not so much. And so they had to use their quarterback to really account for that extra man. And so now you're faced with a situation where if you're Sherrone Moore, if you're that offensive staff, can you block loaded boxes with your offensive line? And if you can't, how do you address that with your quarterback? If your quarterback is Davis Warren, he's not necessarily a runner. Are you going to let him RPO like Georgia did with Stetson Bennett, former walk-on, who was an excellent RPO quarterback, right? Or are you going to play Alex Orji more, who they played, but it was more in spot duty. It was a play here and a play there. That was a bit surprising. Would they let him get more plays at a time? Because when he ran the football, he was really effective. And for Michigan, it really boils down to, no matter how well Davis Warren throws the football, it boils down to how well Michigan runs the football. It starts there. And so to me, that is the question. Which quarterback allows Michigan to run the football the best? And that is going to be a question, I think, that they're really dealing with in practice all week.
Really, really good point there. I think we just assumed that whoever was playing quarterback would be assisted by the run game, but that left something to be desired on Saturday too. So figure that out, and then everything else hopefully will fall into place. Those are the questions that I have, but you guys are the experts, so I just want to toss it up to just what is the most critical matchup to watch for both of these teams? Let's start with Texas, Chip.
I think it's the Texas offensive line against the Michigan defensive line because, it's not just Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. It's Rashawn Benny, who, looked really good against Fresno State. And it was interesting. Some of the Texas offensive linemen said that Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham remind them of Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, who were the two best interior defensive linemen in FBS last year, according to Pro Football Focus. And it may be Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham with some Rashawn Benny sprinkled in. So, look, if you're gonna be able to run the football, if you're gonna be able to protect Quinn Ewers, those guys up front, and they talk about wanting to win the Joe Moore Award. Well, here's where they can start proving their point against this super talented Michigan defensive line.
Yeah, I think Chip's spot on. Everyone is going to point to that matchup. It's strength on strength. It was surprising to see Rashawn Benny play as well as he played. He's coming back from a significant leg injury. We talked to Wink Martindale the week prior, and he was saying that he was kind of skeptical that Rashawn was going to be as ready to go as he obviously was. But when you look at the edge guys and the compliment that everyone is expecting Mason Graham to be what he is. I mean, projected to be a top 10 pick in the draft. Kenneth Grant is an outstanding guy being projected in the first round in many respects. But Josiah Stewart and Derek Moore were absolutely outstanding. Josiah Stewart had two sacks in the game. Across the front, Michigan is outstanding. And if they can control the line of scrimmage, now that gives that offense, Emily, we were just talking about, the quarterback and can they run the football and the mistakes they made last week. It gives them some breathing room. It gives them an opportunity to grow through some of those growing pains if Michigan can control things on the defensive side of the ball. And that starts with that defensive line, if they can control the game. And so that is the biggest matchup in this contest.
Complementary football, as coaches love to say. Okay, so we got a little bit antsy, and we simulated this game 20 times on EA College Football 25. So this is your first look at the game. Obviously, this is not real, but this one was pretty tight. The home team, they won it 11 times. So let's start with the team who won the fake game and ask you, Sam, what's the biggest key to pulling out a win for Michigan in the real game?
Limiting explosives and getting explosives. Michigan got 0 explosive plays last week, and that just will not do. And there were explosive plays to be had on the field in the run game. I mean, so many people point to pushing the football down the field, and you had the shot play from Davis Warren that he underthrew. He was late with the football. Yeah, they need to take more shots. But the focus, I'm sure, in practice and in the film room, the missed explosives in the run game, the missed opportunities where a block here and a block there, and you pull and you come tight to the center on this play instead of getting wide. You do those things that they did in past years, and Donovan Edwards is off to the races, or Alex Orji is one-on-one with the safety. There were 5 or 6 times in the game where that should have happened, but those plays were missed, and those plays cannot be missed against the Texas team that, yeah, they're going to take their shot. And Chip was saying, is he gonna go for some big play? Steve Sarkisian is going to take some shots. You rest assured, the first 2 or 3 series of the game, I'd be surprised if he didn't take 2 or 3 shots. He is going to go after it, and he's going to go after it strong, because you want to put Michigan on their heels, and you want to make this team play from behind. You want to make it a track meet. And so if you're Michigan, you got to limit those explosives. And like I said, you got to try to get a few yourself. That's the big key in this game to me from Michigan's perspective.
Yeah, and for Texas, Barry Switzer always told me the team that wins games like this is the team with the best quarterback. Well, Quinn Ewers is the best quarterback on the field, and he showed last year at Alabama he could play at an elite level. He needs to do it again. He needs to take it up a notch. Texas has amazing team speed. It's everywhere. And this is how Steve Sarkisian has built this program. Big in the trenches, speed on the outside, but there's speed on defense as well. Texas needs to make Michigan feel slow in this game. Sam said it. Turn it into a track meet. Try to get, Michigan averages 60 plays a game. Try to get it up to 70 and 80 and try to wear them out. It's going to be cool. It's going to be 61 degrees apparently. So there shouldn't be cramps or anything happening. But, Texas needs Quinn Ewers to be great, and they need their speed to play a really big role in this game.
So our Texas reporter says 61 is cool. What about Michigan? What do you think? Is 61 cool?
61 is not cool. That's a warm Sunday.
To be fair, Chip, I would be very cold in 61. So I agree with you. It is cool, but this should be
usually 100 down here at this time of year. So.
Yeah, that's a big difference in temperature for you. So stay warm up there, and thank you guys both so much for previewing this game for us. You can check out more of their work. Keep it locked into Horns 24/7 for all things Texas football, and the Michigan Insider for everything you need to know about the Wolverines. These two and their entire crew, they have you covered all season long.